Here's everything Alex Hormozi taught me about how to scale my business after I paid him $50K for a one-on-one at his headquarters. Now, if you don't know me, I run a business where I personally help business owners and operators scale businesses, but through psychology, through understanding how people work, so that rather than learning a bunch of tactics that just expire next week, next month, next year, you learn how people work, because that hasn't changed for the last 200,000 years, which, you know, it's probably not going to change for another 200,000 at least. So think personal development for business owners who are like serial entrepreneurs, software companies, coaches, consultants, etc. So here's the first lesson Hormozi taught me. Number one is connection first. Because if you have connection, the faster that people can feel connected to other people, the more that they will retain for a longer period of time. So the way he explained it to me was, think about it like an island. When this person comes in and they feel alone, they're more likely to bounce. Very, very simple. But if they feel like they are part of this group and they are connected to this person, to this person, to this person, and that these other people are connected, then this becomes this sort of web that's more sticky. And so if you want stickier clients, maybe you should create a web for them, right? Humans are designed for connection. If you didn't realize this, human beings have 3 parts to their brain. I'll show you this. This is usually for my clients, but humans have 3 parts to their brain. They have a reptile brain, mammal brain, and a human brain. Reptile brain is like, am I going to die? Mammal brain serves that prime directive through understanding social cues. And so if a human feels like they are part of the group, where are we? There we go. So if a human feels like they're part of the group, aka connected, then they're more likely to stay. Because humans are wired for belonging and connection. So the simple way to get people to feel connected, there's a couple of things. Number one is onboarding, all right? Alex was talking about, I forget who it was. I think they were doing like an e-com ads operation. They literally did one-on-one onboarding calls with every new member. The owner of the group did, until they got up to about 3,000 members. You can imagine how busy they were just taking onboarding calls, but it does make a big difference. The next way you can do this is through forced interaction. So this is very, very simple. You just say, hey, you're going to be kicked out of the group if you don't do these things. So it could be reading through a post. It could be commenting on a post. It could be going through a classroom module. It could be leaving a valuable comment on the pinned post, as an example. Tons of ways you can do this, but basically just forcing interaction. And then the last way, my personal favorite, is shared wins. So whatever it is that you're doing, have people share how they're winning. This creates this culture of people who share, people who are connected, people who are up to date, people who are celebrating each other and supporting each other, and also winning. That's a big key. Nobody wants to be part of a group where just everybody sucks together. Everybody wants to win together. So Alex taught me, if you do these things, you're going to have more connection and more of a feeling of belonging and a group identity, which means that people are going to be stickier, kind of like that web model I drew, rather than just bouncing next week, next month. Now, the thing you have to realize here, I'm going to add an extra one of my own, which is group identity. All right, group identity. And specifically, if you can create an us versus them mentality, that is going to take the connection level through the roof and make everybody feel connected and against leaving. So not only do they feel like they want to stay, but they also feel like they don't want to leave. They don't want to be part of these groups of people. So a person who does this fantastically is Hamza. He uses the word Jeffrey. Don't be a Jeffrey. Hamza does like male self-development, workout, alpha male stuff, whatever. A Jeffrey is somebody who is the antithesis of every belief that he wants his clients to have. So for me, I want my clients to have a focus on psychology, a focus on long-term results rather than short-term payoff, a focus on learning something once to be able to use for the rest of your life rather than having to just like stay on the hamster wheel. So I'm going to vilify people who are the opposite of that, so that everybody that's in the community now believes, oh, we don't want to be those people. We are against those people. Like, we love them. We will bring them to the light side. And so you end up getting more referrals, and the group identity is just so much more cohesive and powerful because of it. This is a tactic that can also be used for bad. Like, this is how cults create such a devoted following because they use the same principle. But just as much as it can be used for bad, it can also be used for good. The second biggest lesson that Alex taught me that I love, it works completely with human psychology, is gamification and progression. Now, when you gamify things, all that means is you are creating a reward system, and all that progression means is that you are creating a next steps system. So when you do this, you create addiction. Right? Again, this is something that can be used for bad. Like if you look at casinos and let's say like the lottery, porn websites, they all do this stuff, and it's why they are so addictive. Now, if you want to just focus on 3 things that people really need in order to do all of this in a simple package, number 1, people need a clear pathway to level up. Number 2, they need a reward at each stage of leveling up, along with the identity shift of leveling up. And then number 3, you need to make sure that what's needed in order to level up also aligns with what they believe they need in order to level up personally, professionally, etc. Now, here's what that means. When I had this one-on-one with Alex, I was running a sales training community, and we called it the Sales Dojo. And so when you come in, you're a white belt. If you're familiar with martial arts, it's very simple. You start as a white belt, and then you pass a test, and then you get to yellow belt. And then you do all these requirements, and you pass a test, and you level up, so on and so forth, all the way to black belt. So what I did was I aligned the prerequisites of leveling up with things that they already knew they needed to do. They already knew that they needed to review their own sales calls. They already knew that they needed to role play with other members. They already knew that they needed to learn how to handle XYZ objections. And so I built this prerequisite list for leveling up that also served what they knew they needed in order to level up professionally and in their skill set. And then once they did those things, I gave them a reward and a clear pathway to what their next step was going to be. Very, very simple. Now the psychology behind this is sound. Progression equals growth. It's a basic human need. Every human wants to grow and not stay stagnant. Achievement is another one, or significance, approval from the group. Everybody wants to be seen as significant. They want to be approved of. They want to fit in with the crowd. It's a basic human need. And then the third level is actually leveraging what we call dopamine mechanics. Now, if you want to learn more about that, so it's a bit more of an advanced topic I don't have time to go through in this video, but if you hit the link down in the description below, I have a free community where I talk about all of this stuff. Check it out. It's just for business owners who are looking to scale, leveraging psychology. Now, the 3 simple ways that you can implement this. Number 1 is levels. Create levels to your program. Rather than just giving everybody everything at once, structure it into, here's what we do first, here's what we do next, here's what we do next. Or you can structure it into simple tactics to more advanced tactics. That's personally how I do mine. So people can get some quick wins early on, but they also know there are higher and higher levels to things. Rather than giving everybody everything at once and them feeling overwhelmed and then bouncing because they feel overwhelmed and they're not using everything as well. Number 2 is as they level up, you want to give them rewards. So this may seem obvious, but it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be like, oh, here's 10 grand because you leveled up in this $10,000 program. Like, don't do that. But if you can give people rewards as they level up, it's going to create a more addictive product that people are more likely to log into. If you think about where you see rewards inside of, let's just use softwares as an example. If you go get coffee each day, you go to Starbucks or Summer Moon or some sort of coffee shop, they have an app, they have a reward system. You go grocery shopping, reward system. Basically every big company uses this right now. So why aren't you? It's so basic and it's so easy, but create rewards that people get along the way. Last but not least, number 3 is a clear path. I cannot overemphasize this. The more calories it takes the brain to process information, the less likely people are to process it. This is why people say create content that can be understood by a 3rd grader or a 5th grader. Make it simple, clear, not clever. This is leveraging that same exact principle. If it's a complicated path for people to level up all the requirements or what they're going to learn or what the point of it is, then people are going to bounce. So instead, make it clear and it will be more addictive. People don't cancel things that help them achieve what they want and that they feel like they're progressing in. Now, number 3, 3rd biggest lesson that Alex taught me, identity design controls behavior. So when you design somebody's identity for them, you get to create the clients that you want to have. So imagine for a second that you didn't have to market to your most ideal avatar. You could instead create your ideal avatar through a controlled system. On the back end of my community, the Sales Dojo, where we had all these levels, we also had higher tier offers that people could buy on the back end. So we used the community to build our audience for the higher tier package. Very, very simple. Rather than just trying to find those people out in the wild and nurturing them through content, we get people into this controlled system. People level up through controlled processes that we can measure, that we can interact with, where people are in this closed environment rather than like having to compete on the Instagram feed or the Facebook feed or YouTube or whatever. As soon as you get into the community, I am crafting and engineering your identity to be ready for the highest tier program. There's a couple of ways that we can leverage this. Number one is through naming your stages or naming your levels. Nobody wants to be a white belt. In my new community, for example, when you come into the new community, you are labeled a pawn because it's kind of chess themed. Nobody wants to be labeled a pawn. You immediately want to get out of that. So you will either leave the community, which is fantastic, or you will pay to not be a pawn, pay to play. Then number two is going to be attaching beliefs. So if you can attach beliefs to the certain levels or to the certain identities as people level up, then they're going to take on the new beliefs of the system. So as an example, I could say 100K a month business owners operate and believe that business works in this way. But million a month operators believe this and act in this way. If you've ever heard any sort of belief, it's being engineered into you. So like success loves speed, as an example, that is a belief. And so as people level up from pawn to, let's say, squire or to knight or bishop or whatever in my current program, we'll say things like, now that you are a bishop, bishops love speed. In order to move up to the next level of results in your business, you have to get this into your head that speed matters more than quality. Just do more volume, more work, doing it faster, because the shorter the time horizon between when you learn something and you actually implement it, the shorter the time horizon between you learning and therefore growing and implementing and making more money. So I've installed that belief into my members as they grow up. So as they go throughout the program, let's say, they're growing, belief installation here, belief installation here, belief installation here, belief installation here, belief installation here. Now they have the 5 beliefs that are needed in order to buy my highest tier program. So what you're doing here is you're not changing their behavior, you are changing their identity, which is the driver for their behavior. I don't need to change your habits, I need to change how you think about yourself. And if you think about yourself as a fat bitch, you're going to eat unhealthily, you're not gonna go to the gym, you're not gonna lift weights, you're not gonna exercise, and you're probably gonna have low confidence. Versus if you think of yourself as somebody who is on a life-changing transformational fitness journey, who's going to be bodybuilder quality in the next 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, then you're going to act completely differently. So I'm just designing their belief systems for them in order to achieve different results. Okay. Number 4 is that leadership presence is what sets the culture. You can't just be an absentee inside of your business. All right, you can't. There has to be, if you're going to be absent, you need somebody who is not absent. So for me, I'm not the biggest people person in the world. I understand people at a deep level. It doesn't mean that I like them. Just kidding. I like it. They're fun. Well enough. But you need somebody who is a leadership presence inside of the group in order to set the culture, because they're the one that sets the temperature. Ed Milet, one of my mentors, talks about this. He says that you are the thermostat for the room. So if the room's temperature is too low, turn up the thermostat, like turn up your heat, turn up your passion. And if the heat is too high in the room, it needs to calm down, it needs to cool down, and you can turn it down as well. Be the calming presence as the fire is raging around you. But you need somebody who is in a leadership position to set that culture for the community. There's a lot of psychology around this. The basic gist of it is mirroring, is that people, when there is an authority figure, will follow the authority figure. Very, very simple. If you're at a networking event, for example, and somebody stands up and starts clapping for the speaker, if they're a leader in their friend group, all their friends are going to stand up with them. Or if you from stage, when you bow at the end as an example, you want a standing ovation, you just do this. Like, people will stand because you're literally motioning for them to stand covertly without them even realizing. So presence is how you do this. There's 3 ways to really implement this. Number 1 is to just show up and engage daily. If you are just there, you don't even have to add much to the conversation at level 1, but just show up. If you look at the most successful communities out there, all of the owners say the same thing. They literally log in and engage every single day. Number 2 is going to be replying. So actually focusing on when people have questions, when people send you DMs, when people actually need something that you are there to help. Because what that does is it trains people to be more active. If somebody asks a question and it doesn't get answered, then they basically wasted energy asking the question, and the brain hates wasting energy. It's a big principle in psychology, is that there needs to be as little energy wasted as possible in order to get to whatever you want to get to. And then number 3 is be visible. All right. This may seem like showing up and engaging every day, but it's different. Being visible is more group-led. Showing up and engaging is a little bit less so. So being visible might be running a live stream. It might be running a group call. I've got a WhatsApp community and I'll just pop on the WhatsApp voice chat as I go out for a walk in the middle of the day. Can show up in a million different ways, but be visible. Because more often than not, people want proximity. People want proximity to leaders, to authority figures, to people who know what they're talking about. And that raises the perceived value of being in your group, which means you can charge more, you're gonna have happier customers because of it, and they're gonna stay longer. All right, now last one here is signal to noise. You've heard of this before, but here's how you can actually use it. So if you, just in case you haven't heard of signal to noise ratio before, this is literally a fraction of how much value to how much non-value there is. So if you have 100% value and 1% non-value, just 0% fractions, you don't want to go over a 0 denominator. 100% value and 1% non-value, then the overall value of the group is going to be 100. But if you only have 50% value and you have 50% non-value, the overall value of the group is 1. It's a huge difference. It's not 50-50, it is 1. So you want to make sure that you keep value really high as much as possible. Now there's a couple of ways that you can do this that I found without actually giving away the farm and without really taking a ton of work, because let's be real, you want to make this as efficient as possible, right? So number 1 is fewer calendar sessions, fewer calls, fewer lives, okay? Scheduled, at least. I will put that as a caveat. Fewer scheduled lives. When you look at the calendar as a member of a community and you see 17 calls a day, it is not valuable, it is overwhelming, right? Overwhelm is one of the biggest things that will cause members to churn. So instead of having 17 calls a day, maybe have 1 a week, max 2 a week, okay? You really don't want to go beyond that. The second way that you can implement this is gating content. So when somebody joins the community, they should not have access to everything. I know I touched on this earlier, but this is another reason why you should do this. When you gate content, there's only so much that they're allowed to go through. There's only so much that they're able to go through. And then you can unlock the next bit once they complete it and they do a homework assignment or something. But what this does is it reduces the amount of noise and forces them to focus on whatever you want them to focus on. So for example, in the onboarding to my program, we have a bunch of written stories from philosophy and history. Rather than just getting straight into content, I want to engineer the beliefs of somebody who is successful in the program and who stays long-term right from the get-go. So you can do the same. When people join your group, when people join your paid program, don't necessarily give them exactly what they want right away. Give them what they need in order to make them stay. And gate everything else, lock everything else until they complete that. The third way you can implement this is just being organized and having dedicated channels. So organized, dedicated channels. All this means is having a dedicated announcements channel. Have a dedicated all chat channel. Don't have a bunch of like subgroups sitting everywhere where people can communicate and work, etc. The fewer platforms, the fewer areas for people to interact, the better, because that means that there's not 17 group chats that they have to filter through and like just scroll through in order to remove the notifications. Because I don't know if you're anything like me, I hate when there's like 99 plus emails in my inbox. I hate that shit. And so then I'll just go through and select all as read. But that's not helpful for you as a business owner who's sending me emails, because then you have skewed statistics. I'm not actually reading your shit. So it's the same thing with your members. The more organized you can be and the more that you can use dedicated channels and platforms for specific things, the less cognitive load it takes on your clients, meaning the more efficient their experience is, meaning the more likely they are to continue and progress and stay and pay you more money in the long term. So those are the 5 biggest learning lessons. I'd say the one overarching rule to think of: community does not equal content. It doesn't mean just do more. Do the right things that align with how human beings actually work, and you're going to get outsized returns. What you're doing is you are designing human behavior in a way that progresses to get to this concept that creates clients for your higher tier program. Because when you do this, I guarantee you, revenue goes up, LTV goes up, retention goes up, and churn goes down. Which means overall you get more money, you've got a better community, you get more referrals, and you keep getting these results for the long term without having to change anything because like IG's algorithm updated, or there's a new Claude skill out, or anything like that. Because the better you understand psychology, the easier business becomes.